those two games. I do like what C9 showed in the second game.
Whereas for me, I liked what I saw out of FlyQuest early game, but they definitely need to shore up their solo laners a little bit. Ari and Quan and Meteos all had fantastic games, but when you lose while having fantastic games on some of your members, it means there's vast underperformances elsewhere.
For sure. That's a really good way to put it. You can't just go back to, no, you were 6-0, you should have carried. No, somebody else definitely has to.
Yeah, it's a 5-man game. No matter how ahead one person gets, it's still usually a 5-man game.
Oh, what is next?
Alistar ban, baby.
Yeah, there's the Alistar ban and the Braum. He's been finding the Braum already, so now he gets 2 pointed directly at him, as Quan has been having quite the initiations. Very bullheaded. Akali gets banned out there from FlyQuest Academy. Morgana, wow. 3 support bans from blue side to start things off.
I'll be curious to see what they go with here because they have pinched the mid pool pretty aggressive, or the support pool, and it leaves up the Rakan first pick without very many good answers. And at the same time, you still have the Aatrox left up, which we saw the takeaway where C9 was kind of letting that fall, I think, because they didn't think No was ever going to play it. And I don't think No had such a good performance that C9 looks at that and then goes, all right, yeah, we can't let No have it again. I assume C9 will not ban Aatrox the rest of the series after that performance, and it'll fall on FlyQuest to stop that from happening even on blue side, potentially, if they don't ever want to play it. And now, with the Aatrox ban getting picked up by FlyQuest, the Rakan falls through to them. Most likely what we'll see again here out of C9, though they did struggle a little bit with it in the first game. I still think overall it looked good for them.
Absolutely. Kind of Keith can be on his Feather Storm finger, and he'll definitely not need as much support from Fang on that Rakan, and they have a little bit less chaos in the fights.
And they were really pressuring the map super well in the laning phase for Keith and Fang. It was almost like the flip side of the problem from first game to second game, where it was like, all right, game 1, our laning phase was good, had some struggles in team fight, other way around. And going back to the Xayah Rakan, I really liked because they did have a good understanding of that lane, as demonstrated in the first game. But yeah, the Nocturne, getting dropped as a result from all the support fan focus.
So a lot of that blue side, now it goes to Meteos on the red. And gotta remember Meteos loves the damage Nocturne.
We'll see what he goes for, because as much as a power pick as Nocturne is, and you seem to be handing over a power pick to the end. Ooh, hold on. 2 trains of thought going in my brain right now. We'll get out with one of them first. Power pick as Nocturne is, giving it over to the enemy's best player is something you're usually cautious about doing in a best of 5. But in this situation, I don't think Nocturne is great for what Meteos has been doing. He's been focusing on the Graves and the Kindred early game tempo to able to find objectives in situations that's sometimes hard to do. And that's not what Nocturne's great for. So we'll see if this works out or not. Similarly, with all those bans, the Tahm Kench we're talking about getting nerfed heavily on 8.16. We'll see if it's still a viable pick into the Rakan and Xayah that we usually see as it's now locked in. You know, this is kind of forcing Quan's hand as he's pushed pretty far down the champ roster.
I think it synergizes with something else other than wanting. Well, you can win the lane with Tahm Kench, obviously, if you can get the licks to stick. But you now can Abyssal Voyage. You can travel with that Nocturne if things get a little too crazy, and there is support needed kind of in a moment's notice on that fight. Olaf seen on the other side to start it off. What is the 1-2-3 rounded out for FlyQuest? As Svenskeren going to take that Olaf. Pretty good in the jungle.
The blind LeBlanc. All right. Yeah. I mean, with the adaptations C9 has made in the draft, targeting Quan, who is playing very well, it does open up a couple other picks. LeBlanc being one of the ones that Peck and Wolf looked great on in quarterfinals, and after having a disappointing Zoe game, this is a great champion for him to be able to grab for himself. And then the Olaf as well, very powerful early game jungler who can scrap out that Nocturne potentially, and that's why they're looking for that, to keep Meteos under control, because he is the big factor for FlyQuest in the first 2 games.
I like the chaos that Ragnarok and Olaf can create if you have that grand entrance coming in from a charming Fang. So it can definitely do a lot of running around there to disrupt FlyQuest. A Rise into Galio will not be joining those dives on the side of Cloud9. Good final bans to the mid lane, and they hit Ari, who's also been having decent laning phase with a Kai'Sa and Jhin, second bans.
Yeah, we did see the Tristana come through, but that's a little bit more of a Kai'Sa pick in particular. A couple teams had been talking about how some scrim meta stuff had emerged, where if you are going to lose the Kai'Sa, pretty frequently you see people go for that. So Ari returns to, prior to that, what was considered the most stable marksman in the bot lane in Varus.
Easy pickup, good crowd control, synergizes well with Tahm Kench since he doesn't have too much escapability for himself.
And that's the big point with the Tahm Kench changes. looking at them right now, it was actually a pretty massive nerf to the cooldown on W, especially early on in laning phase. That being a big problem, went from 14 to 28, literally doubled. And so if you get a trade forced onto you and then their cooldowns come back up and you can't protect this Varus again for another 14 seconds, it's really hard to win laning phase. You know, it does force you to use it more aggressively because they added something where if you use it on an enemy champion, you do get to get the cooldown halved, but it's hard to lock down as Rakan.
Ornn or Poppy? That's the question here. Poppy does stoppy a lot of what's on that other side of FlyQuest Academy. They're flying in, so they get the steadfast presence on the map. Shiro's going to try his hand at the hammer.
Nice team comp overall by C9, a fair amount of beef, lots of engage, and lots of damage. They don't have much wave clear, which is the only concern, but that might be okay if Xayah gets ahead. And we'll see the Scion for the second game in a row.
There it is. No, back on a tank as we would think to go up against Shiro now. And I like the Fizz pickup. It plays somewhat like we have been considering the Zoe, where you see Zoe use her portal mark, you can throw the fish back. You can always kind of determine where LeBlanc might go. She just has a chance to take that distortion back whenever she wants.
Yeah, the extra little bit of decision-making by LeBlanc does make it a little bit harder, but we'll see how this is, because once again, we're talking about all these nerf champions. It was very much a competitive-focused patch, it felt like, with the changes that came in. Fizz was one of those champions, but it was mostly ability power ratios, and so the stuff that you took with Fizz early on was mostly for laning phase, and so, you know, if you're shaving off 1 point or 0.1 or half a point on a lot of these abilities, you're for the most part going to be functioning the same for the first 15 minutes of the game. So we'll see if this Fizz is still as effective. It was a very risky draft where a lot of power picks were left up for different members on FlyQuest side, but it felt like C9 was ready for it and had answers on every level.
These are some of my favorite picks coming in from both teams because it seems like they've gone a little bit into each other's wheelhouses. There wasn't, oh, they have this, now we need to conform and pick X. They've done a little bit of what they want, and I love to see that in a series when then everybody kind of stretches their arms, stretches their legs. 2 games, dust off that nervousness, and we're going to be heading now into Game 3. Cloud9 Academy with 1 victory and FlyQuest Academy with 1 win under their belts.
And like you said, mid-series adaptations coming through, all that support focus. Tom Kench forced to go after, and then starts leaving up some of these mid and jungles that are very, very powerful. And this should hopefully be an explosive early game with the Assassin mid lane matchup, as well as an Olaf to combo into that.
I was just going to ask that as well as we wait to get on to the Rift. What is that matchup between a Nocturne and an Olaf? Olaf obviously wants to be low so he can be tricky, fight fast in the jungle, but is Nocturne powerful enough to get into the face of that?
I mean, there's like a couple mini power spikes you might need to worry about. A lot of people talk about Nocturne's level 2 actually not being that bad with the Q and the E, the fear tether, and someone low range like Olaf. If Olaf takes an auto attack trade against a melee Nocturne at level 2, could go south, especially depending on who has priority in the mid lane, which probably should favor the LeBlanc early on, but then that quickly starts flipping around at later levels. So there are a couple, you know, those kind of unique windows, but for the most part, Olaf should have the advantage on Nocturne for a lot of the early game until the first couple items come through, and the base damage numbers start getting replaced by the scaling damage numbers on the other champions, or health numbers if you're just building some health against Olaf.
And what do we feel for top lane? I can see the victory here for early game. Like we said, Cloud9, FlyQuest in that game 1 was able to come back in the mid game. So like I said, anybody's matchup here as we look to see who can take victory on the Rift.
Here we go.
It's a pretty orthodox start in the inventories from what we're seeing. Relics for Quan as he's going to lick the minions down, and Fang grabbing up some of that thief gold as he hits his abilities. Same starts for the junglers. See if they had opposite sides after they figure out what the line of scrimmage is.
All right. Minion dematerializers for LeBlanc actually might help negate some of those, or actually not negate, but push that advantage of the push even more. Able to get rid of those cannon creeps very quickly versus the Fizz. If people do not know what the big Fizz changes were, and I think all the way back to 8.14, you get the an on-hit instant damage with your W active now, as opposed to just increasing the bleed %. And if that kills a target, you partially refund the mana and you get the cooldown back.
Reset.
So you're able to use that to clear minion waves much more efficiently.
Yeah, that's your turret farming.
Yep, very useful for that. And then it's also a little bit more damage just in general when you go in on somebody. being able to
That's
get
your
that,
people farming.
get your little extra bit of burst damage from the W active doing it right away.
Stopwatches into the hands of No. Quan for some big plays later. First game, he is going to be off that Alistar. 3 main focuses in the first round of bans towards Quan, Braum, Morgana, and that Alistar. So we'll see if being put back to the Tahm Kench hinders that bottom lane at all.
It's going to be an important point moving forward in the series, just because if Quan has another good game, you have to weigh whether or not the Alistar ban game would have been so much better that it was worth the extra bans you threw there.
Yeah.
Or if it's a situation where Quan struggles, you can easily see that that was probably worth those bans.
Ooh, kind of like wanted that one around the minions. Curvy tongue. Gets a nice hit in, doesn't do too much to start things off, as level 2 should go to Keith and Fang first. But Keith pushing this one in.
Yeah, they should have the advantage in this lane. Zyrakan are notoriously powerful at level 1 if you take a bad trade. They also have to be careful too with the nerfs that came into Rakan's base HP. But all things considered, still very strong trading patterns available, and especially with the, like we said, nerf for Tahm Kench as well, won't have as many windows to snap, eat, airy out of a W that might come in.
I think the HP makes sense for Rakan. A little too safe, especially with passive Fae Feather Shield coming in. I don't know how safe they are here as Meteos goes from Scuttle to looking at Keith and Fang. Who's the first attack here? He has one more shield to go onto Keith, I believe, unless he used it. There's the cooldown once again, getting themselves short, but the safety. And Fang is low, but they keep themselves alive.
Second time in a row, Meteos has gone for the level 2 gank. No red buff this time, and not an Alistar to flash set things up, and you instantly see the Tahm Kench not nearly as effective. Quan didn't want to commit to the flash auto Q. The enemy had the flash as well, which probably would have led to an even situation.
Tell you what, Alistar, that probably would have been a kill.
Oh, for sure, Alistar gets a kill. There was a potential if Fang was not quick on his mechanics and he gets the flash auto W off, you can maybe get him, but for the most part, no summoners committed by FlyQuest, so no summoners forced out of C9.
That's the first kind of quiet, active plays we've seen in the early game. Usually there's always a big result and as someone is off and running. And now how does Cloud9 react? They're gonna know Meteos, not super far behind, but won't shoot off to 6 unless he stays in his jungle now. He's gonna go quickly back to farming. Top side was Svenskeren after seeing Meteos, so they won't meet just yet, but are keeping a good clip on each other.
Yeah, a little surprised to see Sven not go for that red buff a little bit earlier on. We see some aggressive trading in the mid lane. They saw that Meteos didn't have red buff, and they knew that he could get up to the top side after finishing that Scuttle Crab, and elected not to go for the red buff, actually taking away the Krug. So a little bit of a surprising decision there by Svenskeren. Ooh, gets the ignite.
Oh, he actually gets the tether chain down. That's going to be the burn on the golden glue. And he's squashed out in the solo kill. Svenskeren under the turret, undertow hits, flashes forward. Oh, gets the reckless swing and flash out of Peckinwolf.
Wow, just a little too slow on the flash by Peckinwolf. The E, once it starts channeling, will go through even if you flash out of the cast time. And so, oh, hold on here. Meteos wants revenge.
Meteos, a few attacks. Can he get that extra damage in? The red buff slows him. Undertow flow forward by Meteor. Svenskeren, and it keeps him alive still, even with a bit of an error.
Oh, you saw the damage from the lethal tempo getting procced there by Meteos. Almost enough to finish him off, but the red buff burn while the pot was ticking out of Sven was not able to finish him off.
Let's see everything again.
So first off, Golden Glue just getting a little too aggressive with this trade. As he goes in for the Q, Peckinwolf intelligently shoots his E out, knowing that he's going for the Q onto the minion there, and that's able to get him the kill. And then here, flashes in reaction to Svenskeren, but the E is already coming through, and so you're gonna take that damage. Uh-oh, now no might be.
Yeah, that looks really bad. It wasn't even a teleport back. He is forced to flash. I think he wanted one more decimate on that wave, and he thought he was clear to run out.
Yeah, Shiro, as much as we talk about him being a fighter player, has actually put a couple games in on Poppy, and every time I see it, his Poppy looks incredible. There was a game versus TLA where they absolutely obliterated the... Hold on, we got a fight in the mid-river.
A very hello situation here for Meteos as he runs headlong into a fight. They could have Svenskeren in one last hit. Nicely giving that over to Peckinwolf. Orchestrated a kill for him, and no to the mid lane. No to the mid lane.
How about no on that TP? Go back top, buddy. Otherwise, good collapse there by Quan, getting onto the map and able to devour Meteos out of any potential threat. We talk about the longer cooldown, but as long as that one devour you get off is effective, it's still a very annoying champion, and that was able to bait Svenskeren forward and get the kill back. 2 for 1 now in FlyQuest's favor.
Interesting. Still trying to figure out if they were like trying to push that turret down, or maybe it was a quick activation on Dragon and they didn't have it.
I think they were worried about the fight continuing and was TPing for a flank angle and then just didn't want to cancel it because it's actually longer to walk from base than mid lane back up to the top side.
True.
So
I like that.
I understand finishing the TP. I just am not 100% sure why he finished it or started it, excuse me.
Right. So let's see how fast Meteos can get up top. I believe No realizes he's got a little bit of a problem here. Yeah, pink wards are down for vision. Shiro's gonna go ahead and cut this wave off just a little bit so they can start denying even more. And now they know they can start drawing Meteos' attention wherever he is on the map, causing trouble.
Yeah, Meteos, like we said, going to have to be playing kind of reactive to the Olaf in the early game, but the kills getting traded the way that they have thus far is really not the end of the world for C9's slightly worse early game that we were saying pre-6.
Yep.
This is when their comp can come online, and there we go.
Oh, can he get the licks in? 1Q, knock up, very nicely done. So there's no follow-up from the Chain of Corruption. This could just be trying to get Keith and Fang to back. Quick clear out and no Featherstorm there. It looks like they were trying for the 6 activation before Cloud9 had it.
Yeah, that's the one chance you're going to get a free Varus ultimate onto Keith, who from now on will be able to react with his own ultimate to jump out of the way. So they just did that for some lane control, which I don't hate seeing, especially around Infernal Drake. If that was able to force them back, maybe they can just get this one for free. But as you see, C9 has stuck around and now will likely have a summoner or ultimate advantage.
Slow rotation up here. Looks like Keith just wants eyes on it. They get it for a second, but that ward is snuffed out. Fang playing with fire.
Literally. Gets out though.
Yeah, just gives him a quill. Doesn't even need the heal.
No in response, kind of left on an island. No help coming for him as he just battles for whatever creeps he can get. 10 CS lead, not the end of the world, especially in a tank-v-tank matchup. Not like it's going to be getting out of hand anytime soon. So all things considered, C9 falling a little bit behind the early game. Off some nice FlyQuest plays. Oh!
Good little stun there as they trade back and forth. Like you said, a wave down for No, but he'll still be roaring down the train tracks later without any problem. Peckinwolf, 2-1-0. Getting good chains off onto Golden Glue to really thwart these attempts. These guys have just been partying in this brush the whole game. Ragnarok down immediately. Golden Glue chums the water onto Peckinwolf, so they get the twofer, and both are gonna go down. Great play coming out of Cloud9.
Svenskeren able to stay alive despite dropping super low. Meteos got the first cast of his ult off, and I'm not sure if he actually got the damage from Paranoia, which is the difference between Svenskeren living and dying, as well as the fact that we talk about how strong C9 Academy's mid-jungle 2v2 skirmish will be, and I think it was a bit of a mistake by Meteos to be hovering around there. I think he was expecting them to go onto his mid laner, but instead they went on to... Actually, he should have had full vision of that. Just a surprising decision for him to stay in that area. Here's the first cast of the ultimate coming through, and yeah, it dies before it can get it onto Svenskeren, and it was a fight that they weren't going to win no matter what, but potentially could have traded back. Not going to be the case. Is that mistake going to hurt them a lot? And I think they had vision of Svenskeren walking up there, so he needed to back out a lot earlier.
Well, we saw Peckinwolf didn't really want the fight initially for Golden Glue in the mid. He come around to do it again.
I don't think they really want that fight at all if they're not the one getting the drop on one of them. Just because there's so much power in the Olaf early game skirmishing with just his base damage while he has the ability to build HP. And then Fizz as well having huge bursts means that if they get onto one of you, you probably lose that fight before you can react.
Well, pretty cheeky little play there between both, dodging each other out, but Peckinwolf hitting those chains, realizing when the Qs are going to come through from Golden Glue, giving them a bit of advantage in this matchup. Wow, they are persistent on this area.
Yeah.
They get him to use the chain right away. That leaves no crowd control for underneath the turret. Flashes forward, gets the charm of the grand entrance, and instantly taken down 4v1. not much Peckinwolf could do.
Yeah, completely keying off this mid lane pressure, and this is looking more like the C9 that we saw in the Team Liquid game in the LCS, where Golden Glue and Svenskeren combo together to absolutely obliterate Belter. They get the counter pick in the mid lane while also picking one of the strongest early game skirmishers. They were actually hovering the Lee Sin at the same time, but a lot of people don't like the Lee Sin into Nocturne because if he spell shields one of your abilities, he's actually spell shielding two with how Lee Sin's second actives work. So either way, this combination looking real good for FlyQuest.
So no, they're activating ultimate just to kind of globally deter C9 as they were hanging out in mid for the ARAM. Bot side is now the focus now. No turrets have actually been dropped by C9 with all this fighting and everything happening just under that mid lane, but they are advancing what Svenskeren and Golden Glue will be able to do throughout the rest of the match. And again, reading this one like a book. Who's there for the better counter? Fang goes down immediately, and Quan's now onto Gray health. He can use that to get back to healthy with the E. And can they turn around a 3v3? They lock down Svenskeren, and the Feather Storm stops Quan where he stands. The Zanyas is out. The Zanyas is down, as two are now down for FlyQuest. And it's not going to help too much that Peckinwolf drops one, but he does get himself another kill.
Actually not too bad for FlyQuest being able to trade back 2 for 2, all things considered. And in the top side, Shiro still getting the best of no. And Olaf is one of these champions where you don't mind getting the first couple kills onto him because it allows him to play that face roll charge in their style a little bit better. But they do want to start getting these kills onto the other members. Keith there, able to grab a couple for himself. And Golden Glue came in, but was not actually able to finish off Airy, who I think was the target he was looking for. Fang just gets a little bit too far forward and gets devoured, as well as ultimated by both Airy and Meteos, so he instantly gets blown up. But that means untouched this whole time is Keith. They get onto Quan, but he's a really tanky catfish, so that stalls out for quite a while. And then the flash forward by Keith to try and get the rend on the multiple targets. Stopwatch stalls out. Meteos dies, Quan dies, but Golden Glue doesn't want to go back forward and try and finish off Airy. No E available, so didn't quite have the damage to do that. And quick enough reaction by FlyQuest to make sure they got down there in time.
Oh. Kind of the first one Peckinwolf shot on his own accord there without Golden Glue making a move. Golden Glue says, all right, a little advantage in damage. Oh, there's the quickness. There's a grand entrance. It looks like Quan may not be long for this world. Oh, here comes the train down the tracks. Svenskeren still has his eyes on the prize, and he is going to be able to drop Quan. Fang, however, goes down to the 1-for-1 retribution kill. Svenskeren's Ragnarok is gone. No, he has it, actually. Did not need to use it in the previous fight, and he's going to walk. No, he gets burned down by the ignite of Peckinwolf. Slivers of health as people almost get out, but the rug is pulled from under their feet, and Golden Glue is also going to fall. No, just missing that one to get over the wall, but it looks like they'll get Roar. The Slayer slows. The Decimate just short, and the damage follow-up now from Shiro to turn the
double knock-up.
Triumphant hit, the Keeper's verdict, and he judges that you are guilty. Down goes Airy, and they will not follow no under the turret.
We said this was probably gonna be a bloody game, Riv, with all the assassins in the mid lane, and it delivers 9 kills on C9 side and 7 for FlyQuest. Meteos this whole time just runs top side and says, all right, I'll just take this. Rift Herald, don't mind. Might get killed for it.
How long does he chase? Oh. So many slow, long-range little slows that don't really require much.
Yeah, one of those annoying, like, just trying to chase him down, man.
Oh, Fang? Cool. The hesitation that went like, oh, if I was just doing it already. Wow, Peckinwolf puts himself over the wall. Distortion back is for Golden Glue as he waits. And that's going to be a quick double distort over the wall.
Does get the ignite out of Fang. A little over-ambitious trying to kill a full health LeBlanc with both distortions up.
Oh, Quan, very sure of himself.
There's the Rift Herald instant channel mid lane as Airy is collapsing. No pressure in the bot lane quite yet. They lost their top side one.
Keith needs to move quick. He's going to give off that pressure as well. They're going to say we may have a fight here. Rift Herald has its way with the turret. Golden Glue is trying to take it out. Got a good shot in the eye there.
And FlyQuest feeling a little desperate going for these all-ins. Whoa!
Airy goes down. Quan's going to be the next to follow if they can get on him. Fang stops short, but there's the charm to catch the fish. Don't need any fishing pole for that one. That's the rest of the team.
4v5 too, as Keith was still in the bot side pushing down. So they actually get 2 turrets straight up, protect their mid lane, and get a double kill. So Huge swing by C9 there. Now the gold lead up to 4K.
I think in these moments where each team is considering a bit of pressure release, it's actually when they are taking each other off guard. Cloud9 obviously more so here with a 5,000 gold lead, about a 4.1 thousand gold lead as it ticks up there, 16 minutes in.
And this is kind of what I was saying, it feels randomly very forced. And right as I said that, Golden Glue sees areas too far forward with no summoners, able to get the kill there. And the Rakan engage gets stuffed a little bit, but still good enough to get the kill. The 5-man mid lane is not really at all what FlyQuest Academy's comp should be doing. You more often than not want to be 1-3-1ing, splitting a LeBlanc, maybe using the Nocturne ult to find someone in the side lane, not 5-man sieging. And they quickly get punished for misplaying with their composition.
Looking across the board, 154 to 147 for those marksmen. A few more kills in the hands of Keith this game after having a troublesome Game 1 and Game 2, feeling a bit more confident with his plays on the Xayah this time around. Looking across the map, it's quite even. We do see Shiro still up on No. Good 40 CS now. See if he can keep making the impact and keep No pushed in. Remember, No wasn't a big factor in Game 1 until late game, and we see Bang getting zeroed out, shock and awe by Peckinwolf's damage.
And that's why you had been seeing the LeBlanc bans against Peckinwolf. He is 5-4 with all the crazy skirmishing that's been happening in mid lane, but for the most part, I actually think he's been playing it super well, both in lane and in these team fights. So he's stepping up this game, but the rest of FlyQuest can do a lot more. A single pick on a support is nice, but they need to find ways to get some of these turrets down for themselves.
Yep. He said at 3 kills. Svenskeren didn't need too many more. Now he's at 6 kills.
There is a part.
Ready to fight more.
There's a point as we see them engaging onto the top Kench again.
Ooh, where that 6 kills is definitely playing in their favor. Gray Health only leaves a sliver after, but can he walk out? He does! And they can't get to the coattails. That's Svenskeren going down. The fight may turn now as No goes. And it looks like they're trying to get the final touches on a Golden Glue. Shiro puts himself in like a meat wall to try and stop the damage as Quan goes down. And it's a 3-for-1 in favor of Cloud9.
Man, Aeria's pumping out the damage, but just sometimes can't actually find the follow-up kills there. It was a really nice ultimate by Golden Glue. He could have shot at the 2-man clump that he's actually going to clean up anyway, so he throws it onto Aerie to zone him out of that fight. And Quan devoured Aerie to get him the damage off of Aerie, but that also killed him. So a bit of a dangerous decision there. That kind of gave over an extra kill, but C9 too low after that fight to convert into the mid lane turret, which they're still trying to break. So watch, this is pretty well, tied out very well by FlyQuest as they focus on Quan, who saves his Gray Health for the last possible second. The knockups come through, but then Aerie is here just putting out so much damage with these auto attacks, getting ready to turn it. And here's the ultimate onto Aerie that forces him out of the fight. Quan devours him, which keeps the damage off of Aerie, but kills himself. Golden Glue then got the 2 kills on the tanks in the meantime and is barely able to kite out from the reincarnated Scion. Resurrected Scion? It's resurrected technically. Gotta get my afterworld terms corrected. Afterlife.
There's good placement of that vision ward, or pink ward in the brush as well to deny everything. Aerie could have had so much more damage coming out. No follow-up there as Peckinwolf. Haven't seen that LeBlanc too much, but we know always goes for the support. That's the one he's going to be zeroing out. 5-0-4 as he continues for that aggression, and they drop mid-turret. Nice and easy.
Yep, get their first one of the game. Mid lane turret for themselves is kind of low, so you know a counter push by C9 will be coming very shortly. Especially given the fact that the side waves are completely pushed into FlyQuest side of the map. It means people are going to have to go respond to those minion waves, which should give them the opportunity here to answer back, and I don't think FlyQuest are going to want to defend.
Keith even pushing up, saying, yeah, we got a little bit more around you may not know about, so Cloud9 flexing their muscles a bit, and FlyQuest know it. They have a bit of the vision to see.
And I like the back off here by C9. With how bloody this game has gotten, sometimes you start forgetting the basics of macro and you hover around turrets that you should not be hovering around and then get flanked as a result. Ooh, that chain. Stretchy chain.
Oh, he autoed Baron. Not a problem.
Yeah, but I like that decision by C9, knowing that the side waves were dealt with by FlyQuest and the collapse was coming in. Do not want to get flanked. Go reset. You are winning this game. Take a moment, take a breath, reset, get back on the map.
A few of those core items too. Zadia's just finished up for Golden Glue. see that Storm Razor, Rapid Fire, and a BF Sword for Keith, so he gets a nice bit of damage escalated into that inventory. And Airy, there it is. He just gets the damage in there along with the stopwatch. He has his Blade of the Rune King finished. These guys are ready for some fights. So who can find the better one?
Oh, they've been fighting this whole time. They were ready
Yeah.
since level 3, basically. And
We are going to kill a minute still, so over.
Yeah, I mean, I like the game plan by C9, going very aggressive and attacking Tekkenwolf. I think was the right idea. Here they continue to try and execute on that game plan.
Great fog of war play there. You can see how much it seems like Cloud9 is just popping out of nowhere each time. And these are places FlyQuest has just been or hovering around. So you feel like you're safe. It's always a factor, but at this point in the game, it's definitely there's someone in that brush. Consider there is someone everywhere for FlyQuest. Cloud9 is doing such a great job of controlling the map.
And I talked about the 1-3-1 that FlyQuest want. Of course, C9's comp very similar with both having Ignite Assassins, being able to split and tanks in the top lane. FlyQuest, of course, has the extra global advantages that come in with Tom Tench Nocturne, which is why I still think they want to do it even if they are behind and playing defensively. But they are going to need to find the opportunity to make those plays happen, because if they don't, C9 will just keep grabbing vision control and pushing in, as you see all 3 lanes shoved underneath the turret and C9 roaming around the jungles. Spooky.
Indeed.
It's a nice ward right there. Being able to catch rotations, but that's not where they are. They're top.
Whoa, Chum the Waters right onto Tekkenwolf immediately as he steps out, and Cloud9 came from behind the turret. Absolutely out of the woodwork, as I've been saying. No, could get hit up. Denial of vision by Meteos does make him turn. There's going to be the Feather Storm from Keith as they try to fight back. Quan has his target prioritized, and he's able to spit out Airy. Shiro tries to get in. Now he's going to take a lot of damage as Ares trying to be on the front line. Keeping my eye on that Ferris. Only half mana, and he's going to use some of that for hail and arrows to keep himself distanced. Nothing coming after the death onto Tekkenwolf from FlyQuest, but C9 continue to take down turret.
There's a bit of a scary situation there by C9, as the Nocturne ult had blinded Keith from knowing that Ares' ultimate was going to come in. We'll take another look at the first half of this as the fish barely lands by Golden Glue. Super well done to land that one. Gets the kill for free basically once that lands.
I'm here.
No shows up like, I can defend the turret, and then C9 quickly says, I don't think you can. But this kind of blinded Keith from knowing that ultimate was coming in. The cast range longer than the vision range, and that baited C9 to have to re-engage to protect their marksman. And they do a good job of making sure he doesn't drop, but they can't find any other kills and are able to back off to the turret as we come back to live again.
Oh, eyes on Ares. Zanya's there. Chum the Waters is down, which means there's a big initiation from C9 that has that cooldown. Meteos looking for his target, finds Keith on the Terra. Keith flash away, actually just sidesteps, no, but they're still onto the back line, and Keith stays alive with the help of Fang. They are ready to turn the damage down onto FlyQuest as they lose Airy, and the rest of FlyQuest is looking for safety, but Cloud9 is gonna shut them down. No falls, and Quan will be the last man standing as Cloud9 head for Baron.
Clean ace for C9 Academy there, punishing FlyQuest for trying to step forward and find the kill after C9 looked to pick off the temp onto Airy. No, looked like he had another great engage coming for Keith, who had no ultimate and just flashed, but just barely missed that one, which allowed Keith to kite that out. And then they're fighting the choke versus Azaya, something you never want to do. And the Baron will be their reward.
Absolutely crazy stuff. But Mark, I think that was the moment you were kind of thinking, and she wasn't up this time, but you were saying if you're the Kaisa, you got to be looking out for the Scion.
What a great drift here, to be able to wrap around the pit, and Keith flashes early, but he just can't quite angle it enough to hit him, so Keith is relatively untouched. The LeBlanc goes in for the distortion, which does chunk him out, but because there wasn't the extra damage from the Scion ult landing, Keith lives through, and he's able to DPS them down in that choke point, and then it's just the tanks left available after C9 was able to turn that. I liked the idea by FlyQuest that engage by No was nearly perfect, but just barely coming up wide.
Barely means a lot this late, especially with all of the fighting. Everybody has so many little recipe items to be core items, and these fights are just falling in favor of C9, so you can see how much of a lead they're in now. 2 core items for Shiro, and that top side is still that second item being built up for No, and it's kind of that same story down the list. There's even a Void Staff compared to a bit of magic penetration for Golden Glue compared to Impeccable.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where when you have two very similar team comps who want to do the same thing, as soon as one of them falls behind, it becomes astronomically difficult to come back because they do just what you do, but with more gold. So unless they can really find another super clean engage, this time actually landing onto Keith and kill him instantly, that's really their only hope. But even then, you have a giant Olaf and Fizz to try and clean up that fight.
And it gets so much harder, No has the wards behind of Cloud9, but it doesn't become that much easier for a Scion to channel an ultimate across this side of the map. Being pushed away, their inhibitors are now falling. FlyQuest trying their damnedest to keep their base alive, but it's being turned into shambles by Cloud9. They come from mid now to the bot side of the map and look to take that next inhibitor turret down.
There you see 5-manning, a little caught into the turret by Shiro. You're gonna have to be
Chain of
careful.
corruption, gotta watch out as they're heading out of this fight. Meteos does go down to start things off. How is Shiro still alive after that much initiation? Keith piling on the kills on the inhibitor and onto No as they're looking for their targets. Drop No, get that passive out of the way and fight the real standing members of FlyQuest. A 3v4 inside their base as Cloud9 looks to put the finishing touches on game 3. A 22-10 score, and it looks like they'll have to stop for now.
Really dangerous situation there by C9. They continue to run forward, and Aerie was untouched for most of that fight and was almost able to kite that one out, but C9 knew their limits, got the kills, got out of the base, and looking like they're ready to pick up their second win in the series. Shiro doing as tanks do in the late game, willing to take everything up. Peckenwolf is the one who gets hit here, but the fish actually still hits Meteos, which finishes him off and is the final burst damage to take the jungler down, and then after they lose him, it's very hard for them to be able to win this fight on FlyQuest side, but you still see you have to respect the damage that Aerie can put out with Peckenwolf, and Fang died as a result. And C9 was forced to retreat afterwards, but still a decisive win for C9. Battle of minion clearing commences.
What is next? Baron for 5 seconds, so they obviously can't force that too much.
Ooh.
That would be a lot of follow-up damage there. Yeah, I was going to say, you can't really just slack off by considering what will follow up there. Svenskeren will attack and flash right over the wall if he has the chance. C9 now splitting a 2-3 between top and mid, but they can easily waltz between each inhibitor turret at this point. And FlyQuest cannot do much but react. Right now, they need to act.
Yeah, even without Baron buff, the fact that you have the two inhibitors down means there's so much pressure from those lanes. You can easily grab this one as FlyQuest is trying to deal with these minions and the enemy.
Could be the turnaround. They try to get Shiro popped back and stopped, but he is so tanky. That's a lot of power to use on one person that's still going to be alive as No goes down. The other top laner not having the same result. And a little bit worse for the wear for FlyQuest here. 2 inhibitor turrets stand, but against 5 strong members of Cloud9. In to the fight goes Svenskeren. GA is on, and he is trying to push it to the max and push FlyQuest out of their base. The Nexus goes down in favor of Cloud9 as they move to game point semifinals.
Golden Glue and Svenskeren on your screen, busting out the Team Liquid strategies of dominating mid lane. They take 2 hyper-aggressive champions and continue to fight around that lane and slowly snowball the game. Finally, Keith gets involved. He picks up 7 kills. Golden Glue's got 7 kills. Svenskeren's got 9. You got your tank in the top lane with 0, as he should be.
Yeah.
Shiro mostly on supporting duties.
Absolutely, across the board. That is pretty insane to see in their KDAs. 9 for Sven, 7 for Golden, 7 for Keith. Keep the damage where the damage should be, and you might find a victory.
Yeah, I think that was a really intelligent game plan out of C9. They took all of Quan's champions off the boards, and he still had a pretty good game on the Tahm Kench, all things considered. And then they took the skill matchups in the mid lane, confident that they can win those, and made sure they took a more aggressive champion early in the draft with the Olaf so that they could keep that tempo advantage after giving up the Nocturne, who, like we said, mostly wants to scale towards 6, and then even then doesn't really want to take a straight 2v2 skirmish in the mid lane, most likely.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually what happened a lot of the time, just not really working towards the advantage of the Nocturne.
And I think we see a little bit of kind of what FlyQuest mentality is here in that, hey, this bottom lane gank is working at level 2. despite the champions we have, we're still going to execute this. And you think of what the bans were, as said before, if that was an Alistar even, instead of a Tahm Kench, the level 2 gank would have again worked for FlyQuest.
That's a great point. It's not just what Quan was able to do with it, but what the entire team is able to game plan around. And that shut down on the early attempts by Meteos definitely gave them that leverage they needed around the mid lane.
For sure. So to break down that game, we are going to head over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Riv. And Cloud9, 2-1 up. You guys were right. You're predicting C9 would win that game. They are doing the minor reverse sweep where they lose 1 and then win 2 in a row. In a best of 3, it would be. That wasn't very good. Either way, the team comp's on the screen. The team comp is on the screen, and it's a better team comp than I am as a host. We got LeBlanc versus Fizz in the mid lane. Off camera, I know you had told us LeBlanc was one of the better blind pick mid lanes in League of Legends. Blinded as it was, though, Fizz came as the counter, and that ended up being a very, very spicy lane.
Yeah, I know. Whenever you blind pick an assassin and it's countered with another assassin, it probably means that that lane is going to be played around the entire game, and that's kind of what happened this game. It was just a bunch of jungle mid fights, and Sven ended up picking up a couple kills, I think, in mid lane. Yeah. So, yeah, whenever you're a jungler and you just see a Fizz LeBlanc in mid lane, you know it's going to be a fun time.
Plus, I think that's what Cloud9 wanted. When Reaper was talking about Golden Glue and Svenskeren practicing together, for, exclusively, basically, I think they want, assassin matchups like that for them to camp mid. And then it did play out pretty well. Even though Golden Glue gets solo killed first, Svenskeren comes in, he cleans it up afterwards. Yeah. Golden Glue at least got an assist on the kill after, so he made it okay.
So as a incredibly high-level jungler, obviously, what are you looking for in that matchup where you're like, okay, it's LeBlanc versus like, are there timing windows you're looking at? Are there levels you're looking at? Are you waiting for ults? Are you not? Are you just gonna track? How would you manipulate that matchup?
Well, basically, LeBlanc and Fizz, they have their damage ability is also their escape. So as a jungler, you just wanna communicate with your mid laner. His W's down on LeBlanc. You have a timing to come in mid right now, and the same thing with Fizz. So a lot of times they're going to be aggressively trading because they both want to win the lane. And if you're just around when they use that escape ability, you can usually punish them. So that's normally what you look for. And obviously when Fizz hits level 6, it's going to be a brawl. So
that's go time.
Also, when he gets chunked out a lot early, because usually the Fizz is going to take a lot of damage early, so he can tell you when the enemy jungler is probably going to come. And ganks on him early do make a big difference. Even if you don't kill him, make him use a lot of mana or something like that.
Yeah, pretty mana hungry Fizz, especially even just to get away from stuff. So we have a bunch of replays we can show. Fizz ults in team fights. Golden Glue did have a very good game. Svenskeren, a great one as well, but a lot of damage coming through. Even through a Tahm Kench, you could save people.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty funny this game. I think a couple of the Tahm Kench eats I saw were a bit interesting after Fizz ulted. I think here he ends up ulting his 80 carry, which normally would be a good way to use your ult or your eat, but unfortunately Fizz ult works in a way that did not benefit him there. And then later on in the top lane,
just barely gets that one.
Yeah, barely lands the ult there, and there's no real counterplay to recon and discharge.
Yeah.
Can't dash away.
One of the super early things that people learn on Fizz, one of the basic ones, is you Q through a minion or something like that and throw out your ult as you're doing that. So
towards where they're going,
even.
Yeah.
So then they don't have the animation to react to. It makes it easier to hit, and you see it a bunch of times there, too.
Yeah, most players see the jump and okay, he's gonna throw a shark at me, and you saw the little Blanc distortion.
Why is he queuing this minion?
I wonder if he's gonna throw a fish at me. But yeah, again, Golden Glue predicted the jumps, which I think was really, really cool. That's always a fun mind game and figuring out which way someone's going to go. So yeah, a really well played game. It felt like Svenskeren got some redemption for this one. Meteos did so much in the early game in game 2. It felt like the Olaf this time around was able to at least keep up. And Svenskeren, at one point, was 9-1-10 in a 20-kill game. Really popped off.
Honestly, it feels pretty bad as Nocturne. If you don't really get early kills at all, you're kind of just a sitting duck for everyone. If you're not starting the fight with your ult and people are just running you down, you're just there with an ulti and you're just oh, I'm going to press my R to escape, basically. I don't want to go in. So that's kind of what ended up happening to Meteos this game. He was just using his R defensively a lot, which is not how you want to play Nocturne. But if you're behind, that's kind of what ends up happening.
And especially Olaf, who with Predator, there's easy chances to run you down at all stages in the game.
Yep.
There's no time that Nocturne can be all right, let's go for the 1v1.
Yeah.
Fight it out.
Yeah. Even though he's got Fear at 60, then Ragnarok to break it, and then you just fight back, and the dueling just slightly stronger. Nocturne ults obviously were not enough to get himself into the ganks quite. Top lane was tank versus tank, so I don't think you get to ult the Poppy Scion matchup that often, but You're hoping maybe that bot lane would be volatile enough, or mid lane clearly was volatile, but Sven got more done. So moving forward then, what are we looking to see now? Coming into game 4, is C9 going to complete their 3-1? Are we going to see adaptations? Are we going to see another Meteos carry? What do you expect?
Well, I'm kind of hoping they don't go for the Nocturne again, personally. I just think that champion can be so easily played around. A lot of other regions don't really have a lot of priority on it, and I think Meteos looked really good in his other 2 games. So I think get him more on, a Kindred or maybe a stronger early game champion. And it seems like when he's on those early game champions, he's getting the leads for his team, and I think that's their best shot at winning. So I hope he gets to play something with more early game pressure.
The Gragas, Olaf,
Yeah,
Graves,
Gragas,
that kind of
Olaf,
stuff.
even Trundle can do stuff.
Kindred was obviously very good last time as well.
Yeah, I think Meteos definitely is proving himself the star player for FlyQuest.
Sure.
Right
No one's
now.
surprised.
yeah, no one's surprised. But they should definitely prioritize that in Champ Select as well.
Cool. Well, we'll see if Meteos can carry his team into a game 5. Cloud9 are a single